We are joined by the lovely Pedro Arellano, who is the Product Marketing Director for Looker at Google Cloud. Now, Pedro is going to be walking us through how they have been transcending traditional BI with data experiences. Now, Pedro has assured me there's loads of time at the end for questions, so do be sure to send those in to us whilst he is going through his presentation. Now, without further ado, over to you, Pedro.
Thank you so much, Catherine, for that very kind introduction. Hi, everybody, and thank you for joining me today. My name is Pedro Arellano, and I'm the head of product marketing for the Looker team at Google Cloud. For those of you who may not be familiar with Looker, Looker is Google Cloud's data and analytics platform and business intelligence platform. And what it does is the platform helps companies essentially solve data problems. So our team's mission is to empower people with the smarter use of data. What I'm going to talk about today has a lot to do with what we're seeing our customers doing. Customers choose us to be at the center of their digital transformation efforts, and part of that transformation, it really involves modernizing the way that we think about business intelligence, and that's really what this session is about. And in this session, we're going to talk about some companies and the ways that they're using data and ways that really challenge our conventional understanding of business intelligence, and really talk about how your organization can benefit from this more modern approach. So let's get started. We all experience data every day, and part of this is just the amount of data that's out there, just the sheer volume of data, and it's everywhere. I read a stat that predicts that within the next 5 years, there will be 175 zettabytes of data in the world. Today, there's 33. And just to put that in perspective, because I had to look it up, if each gigabyte in a zettabyte were a brick, we would be able to build the Great Wall of China 258 times. Right? So that's just staggering, and it's only going to keep growing. So the question is, how do you respond to this? As data professionals, as data leaders, you have an opportunity, and I'd say a responsibility, to define how data is used in your organization. So let's start with a poll related to that question. And if you can take a moment to answer this question: what is the technology area where your organization is investing the most? Is it BI and data analytics? Is it cybersecurity or information security, cloud services, core system improvements? So just take a few seconds to answer the questions on this poll. All right. And I will move ahead to see the responses. So about 2/3 of you responded that BI and data analytics is the #1 investment priority. So a few other answers for information security, cloud services, and core system improvements. So, excuse me. So if you answered business intelligence or analytics, you're right in line with what Gartner is seeing in the business world today. So data, BI, and data analytics is the #1 investment priority for companies that are going through a digital transformation journey. It's a bigger priority than security. It's a bigger priority than cloud services. It's a bigger priority than artificial intelligence, and it's pretty clear. One interesting observation about this study that Gartner did is that of all the areas that they surveyed, they saw growth in all of them, but one of them that was conspicuously decreasing was investment in cloud infrastructure and data centers or servers. So, of course, it's a very telling sign of where the industry is going right now. But back to BI and data analytics, why are we seeing this? You know, it's not just because of the massive volumes of data available. We talked about this, but it's also because the way that we experience data is changing, and we are experiencing data every day. So let's talk about this a little bit. We experience data, for example, in our personal lives, when we shop. Just over the past several weeks, particularly now that many of us are are just staying home, how many things have you purchased online, on your computer or on your phone? And when you purchase something, did you compare it against other products or other options? Did you compare prices? Did you read reviews? Did you track the status of your shipment, right, before it was delivered to your house? We expect now when we carry data in our pockets, right? Everybody's probably heard that that story about how we carry more computing power in our pockets today than what the Apollo 11 astronauts had when they traveled to the moon. We expect this information at our fingertips all the time and on our smartphones, connected devices, when we're out and about. We expect or we experience data when we try to figure out how to get around. I know that for me, I'm completely useless, without Google Maps. I remember the days when we used those books that we carried around our glove compartment to try to figure out where we're headed. And we also experience data when we're not even thinking about data. Right. So, for example, if you're watching Netflix or any other streaming content app, there's all these recommendation algorithms that understand what you watch, what you like, and they deliver recommendations anticipating what you might enjoy. Right? We're generating data, and we're also consuming information and making decisions without really even thinking about it. And why is this important? Well, what happens is that the way that we have come to experience data in our daily lives has really influenced our expectations of data when we work. And what this means is that we're now a data-driven workforce, right? But we don't really work with data the same way, all of us. And it's as data professionals, as data leaders, it's very important to recognize that the different people, different roles really have different data needs, right? So broadly speaking, there are two categories of workers. You have one category of people whose job is data, right? So that's what you do. That's your job description. Think of data analysts or data scientists, data engineers, data architects. Their job can be defined, described as data. Then there's another category, a much larger category of workers, what I would call the rest of us, who need data to do our jobs, but our job isn't data, right? So for example, me in my role, I need data every day to make decisions about what my team is doing, but you can't really describe my job as data. Or if you're a customer success manager, your job is to delight your customers, but you need data to manage your operations. And the point of this is that this category of people, we don't live in the BI or data tools that BI people typically use. So what this means is that the dashboard, the trusty dashboard is no longer the primary way of consuming data, or at least won't be for a much longer period of time. We're now seeing data that's being integrated into various business workflows and business applications where people are more used to, again, that second category of workers are more used to living in and working in. And Gartner agrees. So there's this really important quote from Gartner from an article that they published that says that spending is going to shift from traditional query and reporting BI environments to analytics integrated into business operations and digital solutions, right? And that's really important because it talks about where our space, where our industry is headed, and where companies need to be thinking about in terms of defining the direction of their data strategy. So what does this mean? It means that you're probably not getting enough value out of your data today. Let's start with a really weird question. So what do data and toothpaste have in common, right? We all know that toothpaste is most commonly used for brushing your teeth. That is the primary use case of toothpaste. But it turns out there are other ways of using toothpaste. So I did a quick Google search and learned more about toothpaste than I ever thought I would. According to Google, you can also use toothpaste to polish your car headlights, to remove your nail polish, or to place posters on the wall without damaging the wall. right? And so what does this have to do with data? Well, data is similar in the sense that there's a primary use case for data, right? There's the obvious use case for data, which is reports and dashboards, right? Displaying numbers on a chart or visualization, which is what we've traditionally thought of as BI, right? And BI data is primarily used for analysts, for reports, for dashboards. And the way it works is you display a set of numbers on a chart or visualization, and some analyst or a person presumably analyzes this data, they consume it, they derive some kind of conclusion, and at some point, in theory, that process produces an action, right? So that is the way that data is primarily used today. But the whole point of this is it's not the only way. And what we're seeing is we're seeing these very innovative companies that are uncovering new ways or other ways to use data that are not centered around the concept of a report or a dashboard. So I'll give you some examples. There's this global media agency that built a custom workflow experience for their customers to understand ad spend performance. There's a marketing department that built an automated bot. And what this bot does is it automatically adjusts the bids on online ads up or down, depending on the performance of the ads. There's a company that uses data to test the security of their servers and all of their networks over 100,000 times per day. It's a very, very big retailer in the United States. These are fascinating use cases for data because they're enormously valuable applications for these companies, but they are not really centered around somebody looking at a report or a dashboard and then doing something with it. So, just like the Gartner quote that I just shared, the focus of these investments is shifting from that traditional understanding of BI to now data that's being infused into the actual operations of the business. So for those of us that have been in the BI space for a long time, and we've sort of grown in this world of reports and dashboards, what does it mean? Does it mean that reports and dashboards are going away? Does this mean that BI is dying? And the answer is absolutely not. Right? The dashboards and reports today remain the primary use case for data. I expect that it will remain an important use case for the foreseeable future. What it does mean, however, is that our understanding of BI is expanding. It means that reports and dashboards will become just one of many ways in which organizations will benefit from data. And here's another quote. This time it's from Forrester. It talks about how insights-driven businesses, or that's the term Forrester uses to refer to data-driven companies, will drive growth through differentiating experiences, products, and services. And what I find really interesting about this quote is that at no point do they use the term dashboards or reports or even analysis or analytics, right? What they're talking about is they're talking about experiences. They're talking about products, and this is where our industry is headed. So let's take a closer look at this idea of data experiences and what it means, right? And we're also going to look at a few examples of companies that are delivering different types of data experiences within their organizations. So first, what is a data experience, right? Essentially, a data experience is just what it sounds like. It's the way in which people experience data, right? Which, when you think about it that way, the understanding of it immediately transcends the concept of a report. There are ways to experience data and to benefit from data. There are many ways in which a company can derive value from data that have nothing to do with seeing it displayed in a report. The idea about data experiences is really about helping companies finally unlock the full potential of their data. And they do this by going beyond that conventional understanding of BI. They're finding ways to infuse data into their operational workflows. They're delivering data at the point of action, not necessarily within the BI tool. They are creating new value streams through new data products, new workflows, and this is really what data experiences is about. at the Looker team, we have we work with our customers every day, and we look at the types of applications or use cases that our customers are deploying, and a lot of this ideas, a lot of these ideas that I'm sharing are really influenced by what we're seeing our customers do. We're looking at ways that they're using data, and through this exercise, we've identified 4 main categories of data experiences: modern BI and analytics, integrated insights, data-driven workflows, and custom applications. So I'll review each of these in detail. Let's start with modern BI and analytics. This is the one that I expect most of us are very familiar with already. Modern BI, analytics, it's an experience that is characterized as analytical, very data-centric or dashboard-centric, right? It's all about serving real-time reports, relevant reports and dashboards. But the idea is that these dashboards or these reports are a starting point, right? A starting point for more in-depth ad hoc analysis. If you're a data analyst, you know exactly what this means. You build a dashboard for an end user, and maybe they have a set of predefined questions that the dashboard answers, but assuming they have the right capabilities, that they then take that dashboard as a starting point and then drill or filter or sort or go to other places that helps them continue their analysis. But regardless of how you use it, the point of this data experience is that you're going to a specific place, a specific data space, if you will, and that's where you find your reports and insights and the data that you need. There are many examples of this. Of course, we have a number of customers that are using Looker for this particular experience. We have, for example, there's an HR software company, and what they're doing is they build this this HR application for their customers, but they're serving reports and dashboards that are powered by Looker in their product, and this allows their customers to better understand their staffing needs and their staffing trends. So it's an external use in this case. It's this HR software provider making these dashboards available to their customers externally, serving up the information, but it's still a modern BI use case because their end users, the customers, are using those dashboards to understand their staffing. We have a mobile payment company, and they have dashboards for every single part of their business. It's really a really interesting deployment, from C-level executives to just down to department managers. They have all these KPIs and customer scorecards. I think they even tracks things like lunch reimbursements, right? So again, it's all about understanding your business. What is happening in my business? How can I use data to get a better sense of what's happening in my business and then make decisions based on it? The next type of data experiences is what we call integrated insights. This type of integrated insight is all about enriching the applications where you work by adding relevant context. So the data is all about being contextual, right? The driving thought here is that if you're the person experiencing the data, you without changing applications, without changing tabs within the application that you're in, you can get more context about the tools that you're already working in, right? So it's very much about augmentation of the experience. Augment the tools and the products that you're using every day with up-to-date data that's embedded where you already are. Right. So as a result, you're enhancing the experience of those tools and in theory becoming more effective. So for us, some examples of Looker customers that are doing this, we have an online payment processing company. They use Salesforce. So when they're embedding usage data of their customers, so they're able to understand how their customers are using the platform within their Salesforce pages, and this gives their sales reps a lot more context when they're on the phone with their customers, right? So It's different from the traditional BI experience that we covered a moment ago, because you're not really going to a dashboard. That's not really where you're going, where the point of it is to analyze the dashboard and draw a conclusion. No, you're just in the tool that you always use. If I'm a sales rep, I'm in Salesforce, but I have information coming from the analytics solution that's being embedded into my Salesforce application already. And without having to change any tab or screen, right now I can see data that augments or adds valuable context that helps me have a more informed or effective conversation with that customer. Another example is we all use chat and collaboration apps. One of the main vendors of those apps is a Looker customer, and what they've done there is they give their sales reps at this company metrics within a pre-populated slide deck. So they're by using the chat app, they can enter these commands that automatically creates a presentation for them and pre-populates it with these key metrics or KPIs that then they deliver to their customers when they're doing their sales presentations, right? Again, it's not about going to a dashboard. You're in the chat app, but through that entry point, you're generating this information that you later share with your customers. We even use this experience at Looker. We've deployed this integrated insights experience at Looker. Our customer support team, we call them DCO, the Department of Customer Love. They use a chat application to chat with customers when troubleshooting issues. But there's this little widget built into the app. There's a window where they're getting more context about the accounts, about the people that they're chatting with, like other tickets that they may have open or other information like that that's going to enrich that conversation. The third type of experience is really interesting, particularly to me. We call it data-driven workflows. Data-driven workflows are really about powering a process or a workflow by injecting fresh, accurate data into it, making the process more efficient, even less manual. So you're making processes faster and more streamlined. You're introducing automation here. And this is a really interesting workflow. I'll give you an example. We have a CRM company is a customer of ours. They have this customer health tracker. And what the customer health tracker does is it notifies their customer success managers when a customer's health score falls below a certain threshold. What it happens then automatically with no manual intervention whatsoever is it populates an email within their engagement platform. And all that the customer success manager has to do is hit go to start re-engaging with that customer again. So you're powering this process, you're automating a process, and you're really reducing the amount of intervention there. The example I mentioned earlier about the bidbot. So this is from a gaming company. They built this advertisement bidbot that optimizes the bids process for online ads in real time, and this is done across a dozen media platforms. And again, it's a really powerful, very valuable application or use case, but at no point does anybody really is sitting down looking at a dashboard. It's all about putting data to use. The last category is custom applications, and this is really a category about building products, like building data products that serve a purpose, right? Most tools that we use on the internet are really custom applications, and they're data applications. We don't necessarily think of them as data apps, but that is what they are, right? So some examples, we have a top retailer. In the United States, they built a merchandising and supply chain management application. And what this app does is it maintains optimal inventory levels and pricing, right? It's really interesting. So it goes out there and it looks at SKUs for other retailers and automatically adjusts pricing on their own SKUs based on the information that it collects. There's a top broadcaster that built a custom application that gives sales reps the ability to make sure that the ads are being sold for the optimal price, right? So all of these are this experience about the ability to build an application that is completely customized, completely tailored to your use case, to the business process that you're trying to create, and it is completely outside, the definition of any business intelligence tool. So now that we've covered the 4 types of data experiences, let's do one last quick poll to find out which of these are in use in your organization today. So take a look at these 4 types and which of these experiences are deployed in your organization, right? So modern BI, integrated insights, data-driven workflows, or custom applications, right? So think of it for a moment. And if you have more than one, just pick the one that is more predominant. All right, and let's look at the answers. Okay, so modern BI and analytics is not surprisingly the most predominant one. Custom applications, that's typically what we see also. And then data-driven workflows. Surprised that I'm not seeing a lot of integrated insights because we do see that experience quite a bit within our customer base. But the other 3 pretty much follow what we see. Modern BI and analytics is the main one, followed by custom applications, and then some combination of integrated insights or data-driven workflows. So my last slide, I'm just going to close with this table that summarizes the 4 types of data experiences that we covered. Remember the key ideas that I shared, some takeaways for you. The way that we experience data, our expectations around data, have really changed, and this is something that you need to keep in mind if you truly want to make your organization more data driven. It's important to understand that not everybody lives within a BI tool. Remember that reports and dashboards are really just the beginning of your data and analytics journey, and if you're in that phase or in that stage right now, there is enormous opportunity for what you can do with data. So it should be something very exciting for you, and you should be thinking about where else can I take my data. And successful companies are the ones that are going to figure out how to use data to deliver experiences and products, right? As you think about the needs of your business, you're in a really great position to find opportunities to move the business forward using the different types of data experiences that we reviewed. So anybody that's in a data leadership position or any kind of data professional, it's a really exciting opportunity for us right now, because there is a phenomenal opportunity to lead your business and influence your organization through data. So with that, I want to thank you for your time and for joining me as I went through this content. And I think we have some time for questions.
We do. Thank you so much for that, Pedro. That was fantastic. And thank you to those of you who've already submitted your questions. As promised, Pedro has left a lovely amount of time for us to dive into these. So do be sure to send them in to my team now. So just kicking off, we've had someone ask if you could just clarify a little further what you mean when you were talking about the integrated insights.
Sure. So think of integrated insights. It's for those of us that are familiar with the BI space. It's tempting to think of integrated insights as just embedding, right? But it's just you just embed a dashboard or report on a screen. But it's actually more than that. It's a little bit more nuanced than that, because the data experience is not about the delivery mechanism, which is what embedding is. It's really about how that data is consumed. So let me use a couple of the examples that I shared. The HR software company that I talked about, and they're delivering staffing data to their customers. The delivery mechanism is actually embedding. That's what they do. They're taking a Looker dashboard and they're embedding it in their application. But the experience for the consumer is BI, right? They're looking at a dashboard, and the focus point is the dashboard and the charts and visualizations presented in that dashboard, and it's a very analytical experience. Integrated insights, on the other hand, let's take the example of the company that's adding context into their Salesforce screen, or our support team at Looker that have this widget within their chat app. Integrated insights, it's really about not taking over the entire real estate, the entire experience, but rather enhancing the primary experience, right? When I'm in Salesforce, I'm not there to analyze data. I'm there to work with my customers. But data that's embedded into that window enriches my ability to work with my customers. Same thing if I'm a support engineer, if I'm a support agent, I'm not in my chat app to analyze data. I'm in my chat app to work with my customer, but the widget with data that Looker provides helps me enrich that conversation. So that's the difference.
Fantastic, and great questions that are coming in, guys. Do keep sending them in. So, do you have any suggestions when end users complain they're receiving too much data when looking at reports or dashboards?
Yes. So that's a great question. There is definitely the risk of flooding your users with data. Here's where recognizing the types of users that you have is very important. In a previous life, I managed a professional services practice, and I had a team of consultants building applications for users, for customers. And every now and then, you were working with a customer that thought about the project that they wanted to deliver through the lens of a data analyst, of the data team, which is what they were. Right. So that they were making these assumptions about, if I can take the data in this dashboard and consume it, then anybody else can. And that's wrong. That's certainly not always the case. There is truth to the saying that less is more, but it may not always be the case. It really depends on your audience, right? How data savvy is that particular audience that you're serving, and also understand that they will be different, right? The amount of data that they can digest, but also the way the mechanisms or the devices through which they digest it, right? Your chief executive team, right? They might just want KPIs on their mobile phones, and just a handful of KPIs, and that's all they need, right? A business analyst, right? They might want more comprehensive information. So it really is thinking about the community that you're serving, the different roles that they play, and how data savvy they are.
Brilliant. So how would you go about deciding which experience is appropriate for the data challenges your organization faces?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we're actually developing a blog on the subject of how to identify the right type of data experiences. I think that in our opinion, it has to do with the moments that you're in. So modern BI and analytics tend to be the first step in our customers' journey. And that's why it's the most predominant use case within the Looker customer base, deploying reports and dashboards. But it's not always the case. The gaming company that I mentioned, they started with the marketing bot that they built to automate the process of bidding on online ads. So when you look across our customer base, it really comes down to what business use case you're trying to solve. And that's the question that you need to answer to determine what the right type of data experience is. What's the business use case that I'm trying to solve, right? Am I trying to give people better, more accurate, more real-time data to make decisions? Or am I trying to streamline or automate some kind of process, right? Make it more efficient? If you can answer that business use case, if you can define that business use case clearly, then that'll help you understand which data experience to implement.
Brilliant. So moving on to another question we've had come in. What is the core tech in Looker if it does more than traditional BI?
Yeah, so there's three main differentiators from a technology perspective in the Looker platform. The first one is our in-database architecture. So if you think back at when I started my career, the gold standard were technologies like Teradata, Informatica, MicroStrategy, Business Objects. That's not the world that we live in anymore, right? Databases, for example, have become much more powerful, much more scalable, a lot faster, but also cheaper. So that means that you're no longer constrained by some of the economic decisions that you had to make, 15, 20 years ago in today's data infrastructure world. You can actually leverage a lot of the investment that you've made in cloud databases, right? So understanding that, Looker does not force companies to bring data into the BI application tier. The data remains in the warehouse, and Looker queries the data directly. So that gives you a lot of advantages in terms of eliminating any unnecessary data movement, getting more real-time queries, fresher information. So that's one. The second one is our approach to data modeling. So in the last 10 years or so, a paradigm of doing analytics became very popular, the specialized data visualization paradigm, right? Which relied on having sort of this flat data structure of pre-aggregated, pre-calculated data that in theory would answer a lot of the questions that you wanted answered. The problem with that approach is that while it is a very fast way to get started, right, with data, it also can lead to really poorly governed environments because all these flat data structures are replicated across your organization, and you end up with hundreds, if not thousands, of what we call data silos that can have conflicting definitions of important KPIs like profit, or definitions of things like customer that don't really match. So you end up with people arguing over what the data means. Looker takes a different approach where you actually build this layer of abstraction, a central and reusable semantic layer which contains a unique definition of every single object or element that you're going to be analyzing. There's one definition of profit, there's one definition of revenue, there's one definition of customer. All of your business logic is defined uniquely. That gives you a lot of reusability, but it also gives you a lot of trust in the data so that people, no matter who's using it, no matter how many dashboards or applications the data is being used in, it always means the same. And then the last one is the extensibility. So one difference between Looker and other solutions you might find out there, and this is really what's at the center, what's at the core of this idea of data experiences, is Looker was built as a development platform, right? Your typical BI tool was built just as that. It was built as a BI tool to serve reports or to build reports and dashboards. Looker was really built as a development platform to build data applications, and we just happened to build a BI tool on top of it. Right? But there's other types of applications that you can build on top of it. And this is where all these experiences come from. So that's a big difference. So we have a very robust set of SDKs and APIs. We're integrated with Git. So, the data models are version controlled. It was designed the way that the developers think in terms of building applications. So that's another difference.
Brilliant. Thank you. So let's jump into another question we've got here. So how would you suggest, how can a company get started in their journey for going beyond that traditional BI?
Yeah. So we could spend a lot of time talking about this. At the risk of oversimplifying, the things that are more important, and this is again from my professional services days, number one, a business commitment. Right, we're no longer in the days when the data team by themselves can drive an initiative, especially in the larger companies, without commitment from the business. So that means that you have to identify a couple of things. One is a business use case, right? What's the business problem that we're trying to solve, and have that well defined, and then a business sponsor, right? That's going to partner with the data team to be able to drive that forward. Above all else, I think that those are the two most important things: is identifying that business use case and then identifying that sponsor. And then once you do that, understand that the business use case, the solution is not just technology. And it's weird to say this as a technology vendor, but it's very true. It's not just about the technology, right? It's you've all heard it's about people and processes and et cetera. You have to identify the right roles within your organization, the types of users that you have. I was alluding to this earlier, how data savvy they are. Right, the ways in which they want to consume data. And then based on that, that's going to help inform your vendor evaluation. And then from that point, the evaluation is there's models for this already. You can go online and find all sorts of RFIs. If you reach out to firms like Gartner or Forrester, they have their RFI templates that's going to help you guide through the evaluation. But don't make the mistake of diving into that evaluation first without solving the problems of the business use case and the business sponsor before that.
Brilliant. And thank you guys for these questions. And also thank you for putting us your own thoughts and insights. So Pedro, when you were talking through your toothpaste analogy, Anthony wrote in and said they are also the same as once they are pushed out of their storage, there's no way to get it back in. So thank you, Anthony, for sending that in. That's fantastic. And I'm conscious of the time. Yeah, it's great, isn't it? Thank you. And one last question, because I'm conscious of time. Let's go for most important question, probably, is around money. So do you have any recommendations for companies interested in monetizing their data?
100%. So there's a ton of momentum, I would say, right now in behind this idea of monetizing data. It used to be that the only companies that thought about monetizing data were software vendors, right? So I'm going to build an application to take to market, and that's what I do. We are a software vendor, we're an ISV, so we have to build this data application. Now we're actually seeing it more prevalent in companies that maybe started with an internal use case. So they just had, BI and analytics for their internal reporting. And then they realized, you know what, I have data here that's really valuable to my customers, to my partners. How do I go about and monetizing this? One example is there's a global travel firm that used BI to report internally, on their KPIs, but then they realized that they were collecting all this data from the travel agencies that they work with, the hotels, airlines, et cetera, and they saw an opportunity to take that data, model it, add value on top of it via the form of dashboards and KPIs, and build a product. So they actually took a product to market. The biggest decision that companies make when thinking about monetizing data is, do I build or do I buy, right? And there's pros and cons. Obviously, budgetary considerations are important, but what we recommend is focus on your core competencies, right? If your core competency is not building data, a BI and analytics platform, right? It's probably going to end up more costly in the long run if you go out and build it yourself. We recently acquired a new customer, one of the biggest social media firms in the world, and they're going to use Looker for a powered by Looker application. And when you think about companies like these, they have almost unlimited development resources, superb engineers, and they still decided to buy the data analytics platform rather than building themselves because they understood this issue that I was just describing.
Brilliant. And I'm really sad to say that is all we have time for today. So Pedro, thank you so much for our first session today. It's been fantastic. Thank you so much.